Hey, what's up everyone? Pac-Man here, and today we are doing our review of the newest release by Bethesda, which is the newest installment to the Wolfenstein franchise. It is the game Youngblood that just came out, and let's dive right in. I'm going to go over pros, cons, and a little tiny overview of the actual game in itself. Let's dive right in and get into it. The game is centered around two protagonists, twin sisters. They're the daughter of the main protagonist of the previous games. I came into this game as a newbie. I have actually never played any of the other Wolfenstein installments, so was my first experience to it, and I did have high hopes, hearing a lot of good things about the previous games. I can say that pros-wise, I'm going to start with those that it does have a lot of pros, but then it does unfortunately have a lot of cons to go ahead and outweigh those. Now, pros-wise, it is a relatively inexpensive game. It's $29.99, and there is a Buddy Pass feature, which if you don't want to buy the full game, but you want to play with a buddy of yours who has it, you can pay $10 and you pretty much get to play co-op with them, which is, I think, a pretty good option if you don't want to buy the full game. But in general, it's not a very expensive game at $29.99 for a new release. There is single player and co-op functions to it. If you play single player, you have an AI as your co-op companion, and otherwise you can start a game under a general lobby, have a private lobby, and just pretty much be playing the game and have somebody joining in as soon as somebody is found. Otherwise, the game has good visuals when it comes to the enemy design, the design of the games, the environment. It all is a very good looking game. Now, since I haven't played the other installments of the franchise, I cannot say personally that it is just a reskin of the last one, but to me personally, coming at this as somebody for the first time getting into Wolfenstein, it's definitely a very good looking game. The enemies look good, the weapons look good, all that kind of stuff. Gun customizations are actually pretty cool in this game as well. There are silver coins that you collect as an in-game currency, as well as gold bars that you can buy from the actual store, but you can actually get most of the items from the game just using silver coins. You can use these silver coins to upgrade your weapons when it comes to barrel, grips, sights, receiver, and you can do it in 3 different ways, which gives you a little bit of variation. You can go with all of the same style mods or mix and match as you prefer. I do like that they didn't cram the microtransactions down your throat and put a bunch of the content behind paywalls. I think that was a good move by Bethesda on this game. I really would have enjoyed it even less if they did have anything like that in it, if I was constantly being pushed to the store, but at least so far so good, that's not the case here. Other than that, the animations are actually really, really cool, especially when it comes to the melee kill animations. There are many different types, as well as differing ones for the different style of melee weapon that you have. That also pretty cool. It's actually very reminiscent to me of the way that Gears of War handled it when that first came out. This game very much reminds me of a game that I used to like from about 15 years ago, I'd say by now. It was called Army of Two. It was back when the US Army had an ad campaign, Army of One, and it centered around 2 characters which were pretty much I guess you would say private military, and it was in a world where pretty much private militaries handled all of the wars in the world. So definitely reminded me of that game, and I like that game very much, which is a plus and a minus, but I'll go over that in the cons. And speaking of which, let's go ahead and get into that right now. Big con for me, especially considering that I haven't played any of the other games. There's little to no backstory. So all of the characters in the game I can't really connect to all that well, mainly because in order to really figure out their significance to the story, I really had to either play the other games or read synopses of those games. And honestly, I just wish that they had put a little bit more there for someone like me who hasn't really played any of the other installments yet. Thankfully, I did get the gist of it at least, and then I went online and I really got into it a bit further. One really annoying thing about this game is the map. Now, there is only a mini map. There is no basic level map. Now, the way that this game works is it's a semi-open world where it's zoned, and there's roughly half a dozen zones with 2 to 3 different subzones in each one of those zones. And yeah, there's no map of the actual zone in itself, a larger version. All you have is your mini map, which can get kind of annoying if you're trying to find a certain objective. You don't really know if you have to take one way or another, and it can get very, very annoying as you're playing through. One of the things that really got on my nerves was a thing that got on many people's nerves, but then they got on it got on their nerves for a little bit different of a reason. There's a little bit of banter that goes on in between the two main characters. Usually this happens in animated scenes when you're going up and down in elevators. This, to me, wasn't really annoying at all. The way that they're acting and the cute little things that they do in the elevator, like either dancing or messing with each other, that to me, there's nothing wrong with that. I look at it as these are young women. They look to me like they're probably 15, 16 years old. And if you're 15, 16 years old, you have a twin sister, yeah, you're probably going to joke around like that. So I got no problem with that. The one thing that annoys me is they constantly have this banter back and forth as they're fighting, and after you kill somebody, like, you can do it, sis, and stuff like that. It's constant, and it keeps happening, and usually by about halfway through the game, you're just like, God, I wish they would shut up. And yeah, that's pretty annoying. That I agree with everybody with, and yeah, that's a real big sore spot on the game. Enemies are like bullet sponges, and that's actually understating it. I mean, to say that some of these enemies are tanks is just beyond understatement. You can literally shoot some of these enemies, and granted, this is after you do full upgrades on your weapons. Me personally, one of my favorites to use during the game was the triple barrel shotgun, and once you fully upgrade that, it's actually a very powerful weapon, and depending on the upgrade set, you can either go for accuracy, power, fire rate. Mine is built for power, and there's certain things like turrets and super soldiers in the game that have a shielding mechanism. This makes them pretty much invulnerable to standard ballistic weaponry. You end up having to use some type of energy weapon, and honestly, that gets really, really annoying, especially in the beginning portions of the game, because you don't have access to any of the energy weapons yet, which makes getting through certain parts of levels extremely hard, even though those are supposed to be levels that you should be able to pass through easy, because those are the ones that you start out with. So that's a big minus. I hate it when I go into a fight and I have to expend the ammunition of 3 different guns that I have just to take down one medium difficulty enemy. And there's like 5 of them in that area. The AI. I'd have to say, especially because I played both co-op and single player, the single player AI when you're playing through the game is not really all that bad. It sticks with you. It'll revive you when you're downed for the most part. Now, in the not so in the most part, when it doesn't work at all. I mean, the AI gets so terrible sometimes, and I don't really know what it is, whether if it's pathing issues or something else, but it's both with your allied AI and with the enemies in themselves. Sometimes you'll be downed and your AI companion will not revive you even though they're standing right next to you and you bleed out. Um, Enemies, actually, their AI sometimes is just ridiculous. You could be making a whole bunch of noise in the same room as them and they won't even notice you. Or you'll be stealth and coming up to them, not crouched, just running, but then you're cloaked. Usually the enemies will hear something, but sometimes you could just walk right up to their face and stab them. And then there's other enemies, if they're just a little bit higher of a level, who will see you immediately, even if you're cloaked, if you're not crouched. It really is inconsistent between the enemies, and it makes stealth gameplay extremely, I don't know how to put it. It's laborious. And also, it's not really geared for a stealth gameplay. I mean, honestly, going through this without all the prerequisite perks to extend your cloaking and to unlock it while you're running and stuff like that, it is really difficult to play as a stealth character. You're constantly crouching, and there's such an abundance of enemies that it's almost impossible. Also, when you're getting into certain rooms, there are certain things that you have to do with your companion, opening doors to elevators and sliding doors to get into rooms. Well, if you're playing stealth and you get into a room, a lot of the time there'll be 3, 4 enemies staring you right in the face, and you have no opportunity to even get to a stealth position. So, yeah, all in all, that doesn't really work all that great. Now, this is probably the worst thing about the game coming up right here. It is short as hell. Now, there's a lot of games that are, you could say are 20 to 30, maybe even 40 hours that feel really, really short. This game you can actually finish. Let's just say if you take, I mean, you play relatively quickly, but then you're looking for all of the collectibles and stuff, 10 hours maximum. If you're not worried about the collectibles, 6 maximum. If you're experienced in the game, like you've played through it once and you're doing your second playthrough, maybe 4 tops. I mean, and that's just ridiculous. And then once you finish the main story, unlike other games in the Bethesda umbrella, it becomes extremely repetitive. The Radiant quests have you going through the exact same levels. Like I said before, these levels are in small subzones, and you end up having to go through the same buildings over and over and over again. And it's just not really fun. I mean, it's the same enemies, they're in the relative same positions, there's the same loot, and like maybe every now and then you open up a new entrance so you can get to a different way, but that's about it. And yeah, that's just horrible. I hate that. Otherwise, it gets boring. I mean, honestly, I'd say I got about 10 hours into the game, and I don't really feel like playing it anymore. Not because it's like horrible or it plays horrible, there's just not enough content in the game. So that's my final opinion on it. Honestly, if I had to give it a letter grade, I'd have to give it a C. But if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. My personal 2 cents on it, I would save my money on it, maybe get one of the other installments, or find somebody with a buddy pass and just try to see if you could get to the game that way. I do know that there's a free demo on Steam. I don't know how much of the game is available on that, but there is that. So if you are interested, you do want to try it, there is that route as well. But thank you very much for watching. If you like the content, hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, that always helps. And if you have an idea for another video, if you disagree with my view on the game or have any input, I do read all the comments. So go ahead and leave your 2 cents below, and I'll definitely make sure to see it when I can. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day. Thanks.